So, I've noticed that a lot of people in the Twisted community are actually quite confused on where they need to set up within the storm with each of their vehicles. So, I'm going to make this video where you can see where each chaser vehicle would need to set up in the storm. So we're going to start off with the vehicle that everyone starts with in the game, the Chevrolet 454SS. Now this is going to be the slowest vehicle in the game, so you're going to be extremely cautious of where you're going with your probes, because you're going to want to be able to get in there, deploy your probes, and then get out of there as fast as you can. But this is going to be difficult since the vehicle's a lot slower than every other vehicle in the game. You also have to keep in mind that different tornadoes actually travel at different speeds. So if there's a slower tornado, you're going to be able to get probes in a lot better. But with a quick tornado, you might as well just wait that one out or go further in the distance from the tornado in its path. Now the next circumstance is with any vehicle that I'm showing on the screen right now. This could include vehicles like the Chevy Malibu, the Ford Expedition, or the Honda Civic, or the Subaru Forester. These vehicles all have very similar acceleration rates and top speeds, so they're basically going to be the same exact way. You're going to want to get in maybe a mile in front of the tornado, deploy your probes, and then get out as fast as you possibly can, since they do not have the fastest acceleration, but it's definitely not slow either. So now we're going to talk about the off-road vehicles, maybe like the Toyota Tundra or the Chevrolet Silverado or maybe the Ford F-150. These are all very great vehicles for going off-road, and they all have a very similar acceleration speed and top speed rate. So the Silverado and F-150, I believe, have the exact same stats, and the Toyota Tundra is slightly worse, but these are all basically going to be the same thing. If you're on a normal road, you're going to want to get probably about 3/4 of a mile right about in front of the tornado in its path, and on dirt roads, you're probably going to want to be about 1 mile away from the tornado before it intercepts the road that you are on. Now with these vehicles, you're definitely going to want to prioritize getting intercepts on dirt roads, because these are your best opportunities to do that, and they're probably the only vehicles that can successfully do this, and there are so many more dirt roads on the map than there are paved roads, so it gives you a much better chance to actually intercept anything that might be headed toward you. Now we have the last of the normal vehicles, which is the Dodge Charger. This is the fastest vehicle with road speeds, maxing out at 125 miles an hour on paved roads and about 55 on dirt roads. So you're going to want to probably get anywhere in between the tornado and you, as long as you're far enough away from the wind field that it's not going to get between you and the car, where you're gonna get sucked up before you get back in the car. But besides that, you're gonna be able to drive away pretty quickly, because it is the fastest accelerating and fastest top speed vehicle in the game. So now we're going to move on to the Chaser Warehouse, which is going to have a lot more in-depth vehicles, starting with the Doghouse. The Doghouse is a very similar vehicle to all of the normal vehicles in the game, except it's a little bit more decked out, and it's easier to get in and out of with probes because it does have, I believe, a slightly higher wind threshold because it is a lot heavier. Now the Doghouse, you're going to basically want to do the same thing as the pickup trucks, because I believe it has one of the fastest acceleration speeds in the game, and it has a 100 mile an hour top speed, so that's going to get you in and out of tornadoes pretty quickly. Now, the reason this is in the Chaser Warehouse is because it's actually a part of Team TIV, and it does all of the camera shots and supplies for the TIV team, while the TIV is actually intercepting a tornado. And speaking of the TIV, that's what we're going to talk about now. So the TIV 1 is basically just a novelty item at this point. So if you do own this vehicle, I'm sorry, but you did not pick the right vehicle if you were choosing between this and the Dominator 1. The TIV 1 has the lowest wind threshold in both categories. The TIV 1 actually has the lowest wind threshold for not just being undeployed, but while being deployed as well. While it is undeployed, you do not want to see that wind threshold go above 125 miles an hour while you are driving, because then you will be probably lofted thousands of feet. And for while you are deployed, it is actually tied for the weakest wind threshold at somewhere in the 100 and I think 40s or 50s. I'm not exactly sure. I'm gonna have to double check on that one. I'll put it in the editing if I do happen to find out. And as far as positioning goes, you're probably gonna want to chicken out on anything higher than 150 miles an hour. And speaking of the vehicle that it's tied with, that is the Dominator 1, which is what we're going to cover now. So the Dominator 1 is the second weakest vehicle in the game. However, it's actually kind of beneficial compared to the TIV 2 or the TIV 1, because the Dominator 2 not only has a slightly higher maximum threshold for when you are undeployed, it also has a much faster deploy time. While the TIV 1 takes somewhere between 5 and 10 seconds to deploy, the Dominator 1 takes about 1 second to deploy, so that is definitely beneficial if you are in any kind of close call with any Tornado Intercept. Now we're going to move on to the big brother of the Dominator 1, which is the Dominator 2. Now this might be a little bit biased because I believe that the Dominator 2 is the best looking chaser vehicle, but I think that the Dominator 2 might be the most balanced vehicle in the game because it has a maximum wind threshold while it is deployed of 185 miles an hour, and the maximum threshold while it is driving is the same as the Dominator 1. But this vehicle actually doesn't cost a lot of money, being priced at $150,000. I think it is actually probably the best bang for the buck. It has the same deploy time as the Dominator 1, but that's not going to stop you from intercepting anything because it's still very short. And it's also shorter in size, making it easier for you to avoid debris that may be aloft floating around you. However, this isn't the biggest brother of the siblings, which is actually the Dominator 3, which is what we're going to talk about now. The Dominator 3 is actually the fastest deploying vehicle in the game, and you're going to want to get anywhere in between you and the wind funnel and then deploy. It's that fast that you can just go right in front of the wind funnel and deploy and probably be fine, even if it's a 200 mile an hour tornado, which actually is the top threshold for when it is deployed, 200 miles an hour. However, when it's not deployed, it has the same top threshold as the Dominator 1 and 2. But while this is the fastest deploying vehicle in the game, it is also one of the most expensive at $200,000, so it is going to take a pretty penny out of your pocket. But it was one of the first chaser vehicles that I bought besides the TIV 2, and I say that is definitely worth it. And speaking of the TIV 2, it is one of the most loved yet hated vehicles in the game, which is what we're going to cover. So the TIV 2 is loved for having a 220 mile an hour maximum threshold for while it is deployed and a 135 mile an hour threshold for when it is not deployed, which is the highest in the game for both. And however, it is actually kind of hated for one reason, and that is its deploy time of a whole whopping 30 seconds. So if you're not good with timing or guessing where the tornado is going to go, this vehicle is not for you because you are going to probably miss about every intercept. This vehicle is only optimal for about wide tornadoes that you can get in the path of easily, that you can predict easily where they are going to go. And the TIV 2 is going to cost you $300,000, making it the most expensive deployable vehicle in the game, which is why it's only worth it to go for if you're actually an experienced chaser, unlike I was when I purchased it. Now, the Doppler on wheels is only worth it if you actually have every other chaser vehicle in the game, because it's going to take a lot of time out of your hands. The reason is because it costs $550,000, making it the most expensive vehicle in the game at all. And it doesn't even make a lot of money back, because with the times 2 money game pass, you only make about $300 per scan. However, with the Doppler, you're going to want to deploy in the south of the storm, where you can fully see the tornado while you are not in it. However, if you are in a southward motion server, you're still going to want to go south of the storm, even though the tornado is going to be headed for you, because if you go north of the storm, you're going to get nothing but a wall of rain that's going to obscure your scan. Doppler is also not going to work in some conditions, because you need to have a very good clear area between you and the tornado. The Doppler scans like an actual Doppler, and once the Doppler dish is spinning and pointing to where the tornado is, it will scan the new wind speeds. This also means that you are going to get a new wind speed scan every 8 seconds, because that's how long it takes for the Doppler to fully rotate around 360 degrees. Now, the Doppler is actually a lot more helpful in the most recent update, because once you are sucked up into the tornado, you cannot record its wind speeds anymore. The Mesonet will just say error. The reason that the Doppler is helpful is because it can scan any wind speeds from basically any location. Now, the reason that you're going to want a clear area between you and the tornado is because if your view between you and the tornado is obscured by anything, that means the Doppler radar won't be able to get there either. The Doppler dish is going to scan the tornado if it's in a clear area. So that means if there's extremely heavy rain like this, or if there's hail, or maybe a debris signature, then it will not scan it, because the way that the radar works is if it notifies something that is blocking the view between it and the tornado, it won't be able to scan it properly, because there's objects in the way that make it difficult to scan the wind speeds of the tornado, because the objects are interfering with the scan and going to measure the speed of those objects instead, so it appears scan blocked on the radar. And another thing that you're going to watch out for is the Doppler on wheels is actually one of the slowest accelerating vehicles in the game, if not the slowest. So you're going to want to watch out for that, because if you're caught in between a tornado that's quickly moving toward you, you're probably going to get sucked up, because if you are sat there deployed, you're going to first have to undeploy, and then you're going to have to slowly accelerate out of there, which is probably not going to result in a good thing. So that is going to do it for this video. I do hope you found this helpful, whether you are just getting new to the game and buying your first Intercept vehicle, or you're finally getting that vehicle that you've been saving money for the past week or so. I do hope you found this helpful in some way, because I've noticed that there are a lot of people that don't really know how to work their vehicles the actual proper way, and are looking for some type of guide similar to this one that can help them understand their vehicle a little bit better. However, that is going to do it for this video. I do hope you found this helpful, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace.